Zo, even kijken. Als het goed is, ben ik nu live. Even kijken, laat even wat in de comments weten als ik inderdaad live ben. Ik denk dat dit klopt. Even kijken hoor. Ja, het is mijn eerste keer live ook, dus ik hoop dat alles goed is ingesteld in ieder geval. Yes, we horen je. Nou, top. En is de kwaliteit ook goed? Want ik zag iets van een melding dat het maar tot 360p gaat en niet 1080p. Ik weet niet of jullie dat kunnen bevestigen, hoe de kwaliteit ook is. Prima. Nou, top. Ja, nou, top. Helemaal goed om te horen. Nou, dan laten we gewoon beginnen. Tesla vandaag natuurlijk flink gestegen. 9,55% op dit moment. En ik heb al een filmpje gemaakt op mijn kanaal over eigenlijk kwartaalcijfers. Een uur geleden ongeveer geüpload. En ja, ik dacht van, laat ik ook even die earnings call gewoon beluisteren. Ik wil hem sowieso beluisteren. Maar ik dacht, kan ik net zo goed live doen op YouTube. Dus laten we dat gewoon even doen. Even kijken, ik heb hier... ik heb hem even klaarstaan. Zal ik even mijn headset opdoen. Anders hoor ik natuurlijk helemaal niks. Even kijken. Ja, ik ga dit straks gewoon even laten afspelen. Het wordt misschien voor sommigen een beetje saai. Ik weet niet of iedereen al earnings calls beluistert. Maar ja, zeker als Elon Musk ook af en toe praat, kan het toch best wel saai zijn. Of in ieder geval langdradig. Ik vind het altijd heel interessant en leuk om naar te luisteren. En ik zal proberen om af en toe ook even te stoppen. En ook even het een en ander te vertellen. Wat extra informatie of ja, wat dan ook. Dus laten we gewoon beginnen. Ik hoop dat hij het ook doet. Ja, als het goed is moeten jullie het ook horen.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Tesla's fourth quarter 2022 Q&A webcast. My name is Martin Vieca, VP of Investor Relations, and I'm joined today by Elon Musk, Zachary Kirkhorn, and a number of other executives. Our Q4 results were announced at about 3 p.m. Central Time in the update deck we published at the same link as this webcast. During this call, we will discuss our business outlook and make forward-looking statements. These comments are based on our predictions and expectations as of today. Actual events or results could differ materially due to a number of risks and uncertainties, including those mentioned in our most recent filings with the SEC. During the question and answer portion of today's call, please limit yourself to one question and one follow-up. Please use the raise hand button to join the question queue. But before we jump into Q&A, Elon has some opening remarks. Elon?
Thank you, Martin.
Even kijken, ja, nu gaat Elon beginnen dan. Ik zie al een aantal vragen. Ja, deze call was inderdaad gisteren. En die andere vragen over waterstof, corona en dat soort dingen. Ja, ik zal denk ik even aan het eind, als we klaar zijn hiermee, een aantal vragen beantwoorden. Dus ja, laten we naar Elon luisteren.
So, just going through a 2022 recap. It was a fantastic year for Tesla. It was our best year ever on every level. The team did an amazing job. It's an honor, of course, to work with such an incredibly talented group of people. So in 2022, we delivered over 1.3 million cars and achieved a 17% operating margin, the highest among any volume car maker. I think maybe among any car maker. While doing so, we generated $12.5 billion in net income and $7.5 billion in free cash flow. Importantly, the Tesla team achieved these records despite the fact that 2022 was an incredibly challenging year due to forced shutdowns, very high interest rates, and many delivery challenges. So it's worth noting that all these records were in the face of massive difficulties. A credit to the team for achieving that. The most common question we've been getting from investors is about demand. Thus far, so I want to put that concern to rest. Thus far in January, we've seen the strongest orders year to date than ever in our history. We currently are seeing orders at almost twice the rate of production. So I mean it's hard to say whether that will continue at twice the rate of production, but the orders are high, and and we've actually raised the Model Y price a little bit in response to that. So we think demand will be good despite probably a contraction in the automotive market as a whole. Basically, price really matters. I think there's just a vast number of people that want to buy a Tesla car, but can't afford it. And so these price changes really make a difference for the average consumer.
Wacht, ik dacht ik pauzeer hem even. Meteen natuurlijk een hele belangrijke, dat hij zelfs prijzen van de Model Y heeft verhoogd nu. Dus ze hadden natuurlijk prijzen flink verlaagd. En ja, er is gewoon zoveel vraag naar Tesla's nu dat ze zelfs weer prijzen wat aan het verhogen zijn. En Elon Musk geeft dus aan dat er geen probleem is wat betreft de vraag naar auto's.
It's sometimes, for people who are have a lot of money, they sort of forget about how important affordability is. And it's always been our goal at Tesla to make cars that are affordable to as many people as possible. So I'm glad that we're able to do so. So I think it's a good thing, all things considered. We're also making very good progress on cost control, and we're seeing the costs of production in Berlin and Austin drop commensurate with the growth in production, so as you'd expect. So, with respect to autopilot, as of now, we deployed full self-driving beta for city streets to roughly 400,000 customers in North America. This is a huge milestone for autonomy, as FSD beta is the only way any consumer can actually test the latest AI-powered autonomy. And we're currently at about 100 million miles of FSD outside of highways. And our published data shows that improvement in safety statistics is very clear. We would not have released the FSD beta if the safety statistics were not excellent. Regarding batteries, production rate of 4680 cells reached 1,000 cars a week at the end of last year, and we're increasing capacity for 4680 cells by another 100 gigawatt hours, as announced at Giga Nevada yesterday. Our long-term goal is to get to well in excess of 1,000 gigawatt hours of cells produced internally, and continue to use other cell providers. So to be clear, we will continue to use other cell providers, just that the demand for lithium-ion batteries is quasi-infinite and will be for quite some time. So we feel we can scale a lot faster using both suppliers and internally produced cells. And we've got an amazing plan for making the 4680 cell low cost and high energy density. So energy storage also saw record growth, and that is continuing to accelerate. It's always worth remembering that the three pillars of a sustainable energy future are obviously electric vehicles, solar and wind, and then the third key item is stationary storage to store the energy from solar and wind, because obviously the sun doesn't shine all the time and the wind doesn't blow all the time. So if you have those three things, you can convert all of Earth to a fully sustainable situation, many times over, actually. So I would like to just make it clear that there is a path to a fully sustainable future for humanity, and our goal at Tesla is to accelerate progress on that path as much as humanly possible. So so we're obviously ramping up Megapack production, and we expect it to grow at a rate quite a bit faster than our vehicle output. So, in conclusion, we're taking a view that we want to keep making and selling as many cars as we can. We believe we can keep pushing for strong volume growth while retaining the industry's best operating margins. As we mentioned many times before, we want to be the best manufacturer. But really, manufacturing technology will be our most important long-term strength. So,
ook een hele belangrijke, denk ik, hè, wat hij hier zegt van we believe we can keep pushing for strong volume growth while retaining the industry's best operating margins. Want ze hebben nu natuurlijk al prijzen verlaagd, heel recent. Waarschijnlijk zullen ze in de toekomst nog meer prijsverlagingen toepassen. Maar ze willen nog steeds hoge marges houden. Dus waarschijnlijk, nu ook met die prijsverlaging, hebben ze nog steeds prima marges. Ga ik even vanuit, nu dat hij dit heeft gezegd ook.
And we'll talk more about our upcoming plans at the March Post Investor Day. And lastly, I want to once again thank all of our employees for delivering another record-breaking year. Congratulations, guys.
Thanks, Elon. And I think Zach has some opening remarks as well.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. So as Elon mentioned, 2022 was a terrific year for Tesla. I also want to congratulate the Tesla team and also say a thank you to our suppliers for your support during quite a volatile year. On a full year basis, revenue increased over 50%, operating income doubled, free cash flows increased over 50%, and our margins remained industry leading. Additionally, we continue to make progress on overhead efficiencies as non-GAAP OPEX as a percentage of revenue improved further. For Q4 specifically, sequential and annual margin was impacted by ASP reductions as we were managing through COVID impacts in China, uncertainty around the consumer tax credit in the US, and a rising interest rate environment. Note that in 2022, rising interest rates alone had effectively increased the price of our cars in the US by nearly 10%. Additionally, COGS per unit has increased on a year-over-year basis, driven primarily by three factors. First is raw materials and inflation led by lithium prices and discussed at length in previous calls. Second, we are working through the early ramp of inefficiencies of our Austin and Berlin and in-house cell production factories. Third, our vehicle mix over the last year has moved more heavily towards Model Y, which carries a slight cost premium to Model 3. Partially offsetting these impacts, we've continued to execute on Tesla controllable cost reductions in line with the progress we've made in prior years. These improvements include our continued work to gradually move towards a regionally balanced build of vehicles. The energy business had its strongest year yet across all metrics, led by steady improvement in both retail and commercial storage. While much work remains to grow this business and improve cost, we believe we are on a good trajectory. As we look towards 2023, we're moving forward aggressively, leveraging our strength and cost. There are three key points I wanted to make here. First, on demand, as Elon mentioned, customer interest in our products remains high. Second, on cost reduction, we're holding steady on our plans to rapidly increase volume while improving overhead efficiency, which is the most effective method to retain strength in our operating margins. In particular, we're accelerating improvements in our new factories in Austin, Berlin, and in-house cells where inefficiencies are the highest. But we are attacking every other area of cost and unwinding cost increases created from multiple years of COVID-related instability. This includes logistics, expedites, accumulation of material buffers, part premiums, productivity, and overheads as an example. As the world transitions from an inflationary to deflationary environment, we expect a strong partnership with our suppliers on this journey as well. In net, we've priced our products with a view towards a longer-term cost structure. Thus, there will be an impact on operating margin in the near term. However, we believe our margins will remain healthy and industry-leading over the course of the year. Third, we are continuing to ensure funding is prioritized for our long-term roadmap. This includes expanding in-house cell production, bringing Cybertruck to market, development of our next-generation vehicle platform, expansion of our manufacturing footprint, and growth of the energy business. We're looking forward to discussing these plans in more detail on our Investor Day in a month. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zach. Let's now go to investor questions. The first question is, some analysts are claiming that Tesla orders net of cancellations came in at a rate less than half of production in the fourth quarter. This has raised demand concerns. Can you elaborate on order trends so far this year and how they compare to current production rates? I think
we've already answered that question.
Yes, exactly.
The demand far exceeds production, and we actually are making some small price increases as a result.
Thank you.
Nou, dat is ook echt een hele belangrijke natuurlijk. Hè? Dat zie je niet in die earnings, in de kwartaalcijfers zelf, maar dat hoor je pas in de earnings call. Er is gewoon zoveel vraag dat we gewoon zelfs prijzen nu aan het verhogen zijn. Echt gewoon echt wel mooi om te horen.
The second question is in similar vein. What is the initial reaction been to global price reductions in early 1Q 2023, specifically in terms of order intake levels? We've answered that one as well.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next one. The next investor question is, will Tesla be able to take full advantage of advanced manufacturing production credits for battery cells packs? So $3,700 per long-range Model 3 and Model Y. It's $45 a kilowatt hour. For autos and energy products, and how much does Tesla expect to earn in the coming year from these credits?
I'll say a little bit about it, then I think Zach will add some. Long term, we expect the value of these credits to be very significant. You can do the math. If we were to get anywhere near 1,000 gigawatt hours a year of production, or even a few hundred gigawatt hours, it's very significant. So, but the credits do rely upon domestic manufacturing, and in the case of Panasonic with domestic manufacturing, we're splitting the value of the credits. So the value of the credits this year will not be gigantic, but I think it could be gigantic in the future. We think it probably will be very significant in the future.
Yeah, just to add and put some boundaries on what we're expecting in terms of impact to Tesla for this year. So different products we think will get different amounts of credit. The regulations here are still in flux and there continues to be updates. So this is just our best understanding at the moment. But, we think on the order of 150 million to 250 million per quarter this year, and growing over the course of the year as our volumes grow. And, part of the work we're doing here, which is part of what this incentive package is trying to incentivize, is, as Elon mentioned, to move more manufacturing onshore in the United States, which is Tesla's plans anyways. And so I think we're pretty well positioned over the coming years to take advantage of this. But then also, part of what the goal of this incentive package is to improve adoption from our customers. And so we also want to use these incentives to improve affordability as we think about what the price points are on our products going forward. And so as we were thinking about our pricing changes in the US a couple of weeks ago that we announced, we were looking at what the credit benefit to Tesla would be to make sure that customers are able to receive the benefit not only from this that we're receiving to some extent, but also on the consumer-facing side, which is currently $7,500 per car of tax credit, assuming that subject to the MSRP caps and the income caps. So we want to use this to accelerate sustainable energy, which is our mission and also the goal of this bill.
Thank you very much. The next question from investors is, after recent price cuts, analysts released expectations that Tesla automotive gross margin excluding leasing and credits will drop below 20%, and average selling price around 47,000 across all models. Where do you see average selling price and gross margins after the price cuts?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll jump in on this. So, there's certainly a lot of uncertainty about how the year will unfold, but I'll share what's in our current forecast for the moment. So, based upon these metrics here, we believe that we'll be above, both of the metrics that are stated in the question. So 20% automotive gross margin, excluding leases and red credits, and then 47K ASP across all models. And so, two other comments I want to make on this. Just tactically on sequential ASP changes from Q4 to Q1. It just is a reminder.
Dat is natuurlijk wel helemaal top, hè? Als met die prijsverlaging nog steeds die 20% gross margins behalen. Netjes.
Reminder, the ASP reduction is not as large as the reduction in configurator prices. As in Q4, we had backlog customers that we're delivering cars to at a lower price book, given that backlogs had been so long for so much of 2022. But then also there are various programs in place that we used in Q4 that lowered ASPs. The second comment I wanted to make here is that, as a management team here, we're most focused on what our operating margin is. And so, as other areas of the business become more important, particularly the energy business, which is growing faster than the vehicle business, and as we're heavily focused on operating leverage here, improving efficiency of our overheads, we think the right metric for us to be focused on is operating margin. And so I wanted to make sure that I shared that with the investor community as well, because that is what we're primarily managing to now.
Yes, something that I think some of the smart retail investors understand, but I think a lot of others maybe don't, is that every time we sell a car, it has the ability just from uploading software to have full self-driving enabled, and the full self-driving is obviously getting better very rapidly. That's actually a tremendous upside potential, because all of those cars, with a few exceptions, I mean, only a small percentage of cars don't have hardware 3. So that means that there's millions of cars where full self-driving can be sold at essentially 100% gross margin. And the value of FSD grows as the autonomous capability grows, and then when it becomes fully autonomous, that is a value increase in the fleet that might be the biggest asset value increase of anything in history. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ja, ook natuurlijk een hele mooie. Ook de reden meteen waarom Elon Musk had aangegeven van als we echt een flinke recessie krijgen, dus zeg een 2008, 2009 recessie, dan zullen er gewoon minder auto's worden verkocht. En dan zullen ze misschien prijzen nog meer verlagen, dat ze marges zullen verlagen en misschien zo erg zullen verlagen dat ze zelfs geen winst meer maken op hun auto's. Want uiteindelijk kunnen ze dan met FSD heel veel geld verdienen. Hè? Een FSD kost nu zo'n $15.000 per auto, wat gewoon in principe 100% winst is. Dus als ze heel veel auto's verkopen, dan kunnen ze uiteindelijk met die FSD nog steeds natuurlijk heel veel marge behalen.
Let's go to the next investor question. Since Elon started political influencing, polls from Morning Consult and YouGov show Tesla brand
you can crush them with your life.
Show Tesla brand favorability declining in 2022 and division among partisan lines. Such brand damage can impact demand. Does Tesla track favorability, and how will any brand damage be mitigated?
Well, let me check my Twitter account. Okay, so I've got 127 million followers. It continues to grow very rapidly. That suggests that I'm, reasonably popular. I might not be popular with some people, but for the vast majority of people, my follow account speaks for itself. I'm the most interactive account, social media account, I think, maybe in the world, certainly on Twitter. And that actually predated the Twitter acquisition. So I think Twitter is actually an incredibly powerful tool for driving demand for Tesla. And I would really encourage companies out there of all kinds, automotive or otherwise, to make more use of Twitter, and to use their Twitter accounts in ways that are interesting and informative, entertaining, and it will help them drive sales, just as it has with Tesla. The net value of Twitter, apart from a few people are complaining is gigantic, obviously.
Nog even een beetje reclame maken voor Twitter natuurlijk. En ja, wat hierboven zegt is denk ik ook wel waar, want we horen zoveel negativiteit de laatste paar maanden over Elon Musk, over Twitter en al dat soort dingen. En ik denk ook wel dat eigenlijk de meeste mensen het niet zo heel erg veel interesseert en dat het een vrij kleine groep is die er natuurlijk heel erg veel over zegt, die heel veel lawaai maken, die doen alsof Elon Musk opeens nutteloos is en slecht is en weet ik veel wat allemaal. Maar hij geeft hier zelf aan dat hij natuurlijk heel veel volgers heeft en dat heel veel mensen misschien juist luisteren en misschien juist een Tesla kopen door al die reclame, advertenties en ga zo maar door. Ik had trouwens nog een hele... Even kijken of ik die erbij kan toveren. Ik weet niet of jullie deze voorbij hebben zien komen. Even kijken. Deze. Ja. Kijk, die tweet views in millions bij automaker. En dan heb je Tesla. Dus hoeveel views Tesla krijgt op Twitter. Nou, 275,6 miljoen. En dan heb je BMW als tweede met 4,34 miljoen. En dan de rest. En dit is natuurlijk allemaal gewoon gratis reclame, gratis advertenties allemaal in principe voor Tesla. En dat is ook waarom Tesla verder geen geld uitgeeft aan advertenties. Terwijl al die andere spelers natuurlijk heel erg veel geld uitgeven aan advertenties. Of dat nou de radio is, of de tv, of langs de weg, of wat dan ook. Ja, Tesla heeft dat in principe niet nodig, onder andere dus natuurlijk vanwege Twitter.
Thank you. Let's go to the next question. Please provide a detailed explanation of where you are on the 4680 ramp. What are the current roadblocks, and when do you expect to scale to 10,000 vehicles a year, a week?
Yeah, thanks, Martin. First, I just want to say congrats and thanks to the Tesla 4680 team for achieving 1K a week in Q4. It was no small feat. Definitely a result of, more than a couple of years of hard work. As far as where we stand in Texas, 1 of 4 lines are in production, with the remaining 3 in stages of commissioning and install. Really, our 2023 goal as a 4680 team is to deliver a cost-effective ramp of 4680s well ahead of Cybertruck. Focus areas are dialing in and improving the quality of the high-volume supplied mechanical parts and driving factory process yields up as much as possible. Between the two of those things, if we achieve those key goals, we'll be well set up for a major 4680 year in 2024.
Thank you. Next investor question is, Elon said previously that FSD hardware 4 will most likely come first in Cybertruck. Is that still the current plan? Do you expect there to be an upgrade path for hardware 3 cars to hardware 4?
Yes, Cybertruck will have hardware 4, and typically, for 2023, Cybertruck will not be, a significant contributor to the bottom line, but it will be in next year. So it's an incredible product. I can't wait to drive it personally. It will be the car that I drive every day. Actually, I'm wearing the T-shirt with the smashed glass. It's just one of those products that only comes along once in a while, and it's really special. So, so with respect to upgrading cars that have hardware 3, I don't think that will be needed. Hardware 3 will not be as good as hardware 4, but I'm confident that hardware 3 will still far exceed the safety of the average human. So what we're aiming for is how do we get ultimately to, let's say for argument's sake, if hardware 3 can be, say, 200 or 300% safer than human, hardware 4 might be, 500 or 600%. There will be a hardware 5 beyond that. But what really matters is are we improving the average safety on the road? But it is the cost and difficulty of retrofitting hardware 3 with hardware 4 is quite significant. So it would not be, I think, economically feasible to do so.
Thank you.
Ja, ik weet niet hoe jullie erover denken, maar ik vind het persoonlijk altijd wel lastig hoor. Dat die FSD en dat het inderdaad, weet ik veel, 200, 300% veiliger wordt dan een mens of 500, 600% veiliger. Ja, ik weet niet. Dat moeten we nog zien gebeuren. Ik denk dat FSD heel veel potentie heeft, maar wat ik zeg, het is echt wel een beetje een long shot, denk ik zelf in ieder geval.
Next question is for Zach. Zach, when do you think Tesla Insurance will become big enough revenue source to warrant providing more details in the financials of the business so investors can compare it to other insurance companies?
Yeah, I think it's probably going to take some time before this business is large enough for specific financial disclosures. But I'm happy to provide an update on where we stand in the business. So we're currently at a $300 million annual premium run rate as of the end of last year. We're growing 20% a quarter, so it's growing faster than the growth in our vehicle business. And in the states in which we're operating, on average, 17% of the customers in those states are using a Tesla insurance product. So, and that number continues to tick up as we spend more time in markets. And we see most of the adoption occurring when folks take delivery of a new car as they're setting up insurance for the first time, as opposed to going back and switching when they already have insurance set up. So there's an inherent stickiness in the insurance business. But
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, just as a broader reminder on kind of the motivation for starting this business, it was to improve, and still is, to improve the total cost of ownership of our cars, given that we're seeing high premiums of insurance from third-party companies. And that remains our priority here. We'll obviously run this as a healthy business, but we want to make sure we keep our costs low and insurance stays affordable to our customers.
Yeah, and so there are two really important side benefits for Tesla Insurance that are worth mentioning, one of which Zach alluded to, which is that just by Tesla offering insurance for our cars at a competitive rate, that makes the other car insurance companies offer better rates for Teslas. So it has a bigger effect than you'd think because it improves total cost of ownership or insurance costs even when they don't use Tesla insurance, because now the Geicos of the world have to compete with Tesla and cannot charge outrageous insurance for Teslas. So it's great. So it has an amplified effect, very important. Then it is also giving us a good feedback loop into minimizing the cost of repair of Teslas for all Teslas worldwide. Because we obviously want to minimize the cost of repairing a Tesla if it's in a collision, and for Tesla insurance. And previously we didn't actually have good insight into that because the other insurance companies would cover the cost, and actually the costs in some cases were unreasonably high. So we've actually adjusted the design of the car and made changes in the software of the car to minimize the cost of repair. Obviously minimize, the best repair is no repair. Avoid the accident entirely, which since every Tesla comes with the most advanced active safety in the world, whether or not you buy full self-driving, you still get the intelligence of full self-driving for active safety, active collision prevention. So it's giving us this really good feedback loop for, again, reducing total cost of ownership, and also just figuring out how to get, if somebody's car is in an accident. Most accidents are actually small. They're like, a broken fender or scratched side of the car or something like that. They're not, that's the vast majority of accidents. But we're actually solving how to get somebody's car repaired very quickly and efficiently and back in their hands. And like I said, those improvements actually apply then to all cars. And like we're making, just to emphasize another key point, because some of these points might be lost, so I apologize for being repetitive, but it's remarkable how small changes in design of the bumper and improving obviously improving the logistics of providing spare parts needed for collision repair have an enormous effect on the repair cost. So if you're waiting for a part to get repaired, and that part takes a month. Now you've got a month of having to rent another car. It's very extremely expensive, and of course you're missing the car that you love and actually want to drive. So this is actually a very significant effect on total cost of ownership and customer happiness.
Even kijken, ik druk even op het verkeerde knopje. Maar ik denk dat dit wat hierboven zei over die insurance, dat wel een hele interessante is. Ik moest wel even 2 keer lezen wat hij nou precies bedoelde. Maar nou ja, die Tesla insurance is gewoon relatief goedkoop. En dan zullen dus andere verzekeraars ook goedkoper moeten aanbieden. En uiteindelijk gaat dan dus ook die cost of ownership omlaag. En als het goedkoper wordt natuurlijk om een auto te rijden, onder andere vanwege verzekeringen, wordt het gewoon interessanter om bijvoorbeeld een Tesla aan te schaffen. Dus natuurlijk voor de langere termijn alleen maar goed en interessant. Ja.
Thank you. The next question from investors is Cybertruck production still on track for mid-year?
We do expect production to start, I don't know, maybe sometime this summer. But I always try to downplay the start of production, because the start of production is always very slow. But it increases exponentially, but it's always very slow at first. So I wouldn't put too much stock in start of production. It's kind of when does volume production actually happen, and that's next year.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right, Elon. Just to emphasize on that, we've started installation of all the production equipment here in Giga, Texas. Castings, GA, General Assembly, body shops. We built all our beta vehicles, some more coming still in the next months, but as you said, the ramp will really come 2024.
Yeah, exactly.
Ja, die Cybertruck is natuurlijk ook een mooie. Ik weet niet of ze die nou, volgens mij hadden ze hem in 2019 of 2020. Ik weet even niet, volgens mij hadden ze in 2020 gezegd dat ze zouden beginnen met productie. Toen werd het 2021. Nee, volgens mij 1 jaar later. 22, 23 en nu wordt het dus 2024 voor echt een beetje de massaproductie. Maar nou ja, goed, komt eraan.
Thank you. And the last investor question is, with near infinite global demand for energy storage,
Yeah, seriously.
where should Tesla build the next megapack factories? How many are needed on each continent?
It's a good question. It's not something I think we'll provide an update about that in the future, but it's something we're thinking about very carefully. Really kind of what is the fastest path to 1,000 gigawatt hours a year of production? You'll see announcements come out later this year and next that answer that question.
Thank you. Okay, and now let's go to analyst questions. The first analyst question comes from Rod Latch from Wolf Research. And Rod, feel free to unmute your mic.
I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Firstly, it sounds like your 1.8 million unit volume indication for this year is somewhat more supply constrained and demand constrained. Then I have a follow-up on cost. But is that an accurate statement?
Well, okay. I mean, our internal production potential is actually closer to 2 million vehicles, but we're saying 1.8 because I don't know. There just always seems to be some friggin' force majeure thing that happens somewhere on Earth, and we don't control if there's earthquakes, tsunamis, wars, pandemics, etc. So, if it's a smooth year, actually, without some big supply chain interruption or massive problem, we actually have the potential to do 2 million cars this year. We're not committing to that, but I'm just saying that's the potential. So, and I think there would be demand for that too.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. And on the cost side.
Ja, dat is natuurlijk ook een hele mooie. Even kijken, ze hadden bekendgemaakt dat, even kijken, waar staat het? Deze. Dit had ik in mijn laatste filmpje ook even doorgenomen. Voor 2023, we expect to remain ahead of the long-term 50% compound annual growth rate with around 1.8 million cars for the year. En Ik dacht zelf al dat ze een beetje aan het sandbaggen zijn, want ze kunnen nu al ongeveer 1,8 miljoen auto's produceren. Eigenlijk 1,9 miljoen. Maar als we het laatste kwartaal pakken van, wat is het, 439.000 of zo? Even kijken. Ja, 439.701 en dat keer 4 komen we uit op ongeveer 1,75 miljoen. En als we hierna gaan kijken, kunnen ze al 1,9 miljoen auto's aan. En om dan maar eigenlijk 1,8 miljoen te doen, leek mij ook aan de lage kant. En dan zegt Elon Musk eigenlijk zelf ook van, ja, nou, 2 miljoen zou ook wel kunnen, maar we zeggen 1,8. Want ja, weet je weet het niet. Misschien krijgen we aardbevingen, tsunamis of weet ik veel wat. Maar inderdaad, we hebben de potentie om naar de 2 miljoen te gaan. En ja, ik denk inderdaad dat het een beetje sandbaggen was inderdaad. Underpromissen, overdeliveren. En als we dat doen, helemaal prima natuurlijk.
The numbers that we just saw from you, as you pointed out, were weighed down by the 4860 ramp, the Berlin, Austin, gigacastings processes not at rate. Can you give us a bit of an indication of the headwind that you're absorbing from those things like you did last quarter? And then lastly, on cost, do you think that we can tease out an interesting data point from on where battery costs are headed from this announcement that you just made last night? If I'm correct, it looks like the investment cost per kilowatt hour is less than half of what I've seen anywhere else, maybe $30 a kilowatt hour for that capacity.
I don't think we want to say the specific number, but it's interesting if you look at the size of Giga Nevada that is allocated to make 100 gigawatt hours is a small fraction of the size that currently makes about 35.
Yeah, I mean, the goals we outlaid at Battery Day on reducing the investment required to deploy cell manufacturing, I mean, that's been a key focus of ours, and the team is doing a good job hitting the marks on that focus.
Yeah, and it goes back to the point I was making, and I said this several years ago. I think Tesla's really the competitive strength that will be by far the hardest for other companies to replicate is Tesla being just damn good at manufacturing and having the most advanced manufacturing technology in the world. And if you've got that sort of advanced manufacturing toolbox, you can apply it to many things. And we're applying it now to battery cells. I should also say that we have other products in development. We're not going to announce them, obviously, but they're very exciting. And I think we'll blow people's minds when we reveal them. Tesla has the most exciting product roadmap of any company on Earth by a long shot, and we'll continue to, I think, be in that position. We got more great ideas than we know what to do with here. So the future is very exciting. As I said in the last call, there's going to be bumps along the way, and I think we'll probably have a pretty difficult recession this year. Probably, I hope not, but probably. And so one can't predict the short-term sort of stock value because when there's a recession and people panic in the stock market, then prices of stocks, both value of stocks can drop sometimes to surprisingly low levels. But long term, I am convinced that Tesla will be the most valuable company on earth.
Ja, dan zegt hij het weer, dat hij denkt dat Tesla het grootste bedrijf ter wereld gaat worden, of in ieder geval qua waarde, het grootste bedrijf. Ja, we zullen zien. Hij zegt hier eigenlijk van alles en nog wat. Inderdaad, dat het niet makkelijk gaat worden. Hij zegt dat we inderdaad waarschijnlijk een recessie gaan krijgen. Nou, dat verwacht Elon Musk echt wel. Hij heeft ook vaker aangegeven dat ze nu rentes te veel hebben verhoogd. En even kijken, in het begin zei hij nog iets moois. Dat hij denkt dat ze natuurlijk hele mooie producten hebben. En dat de toekomst very exciting is. En als hij het heeft over inderdaad nieuwe producten en waar ze in de toekomst allemaal mee gaan komen, ben ik altijd zo erg benieuwd wat hij allemaal bedoelt. Dat is echt niet alleen zeg maar een soort Model 2 kleinere auto, maar natuurlijk veel meer. En waarschijnlijk Straks natuurlijk met die Investor Day op 1 maart krijgen we weer wat nieuwe dingen. Over een maand ongeveer. Ben ik zelf ook heel benieuwd naar.
Thank you. And I think, Zach, there was a question on cost headwind in Q4.
Yeah. I mean, our weighted average COGS for the company, if you were to assume Austin and Berlin were at the cost structure of our other factories, it was on the order of 2,000 to 2,500 of headwinds. So I think from there you can back into margin impact of those factories as of end of Q4.
Thank you very much. And let's go to the next question from Pierre Ferragu from New Street Research. Pierre, please go ahead.
Thanks, Martin. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. Zach, I'd like to follow up on the data point you just gave on cost. If I look back at the COGS per car, you guys bottomed close to $36,000 in the middle of 2021. And then the number went up as you had to face with inflation in input cost and the ramp of Berlin and Texas. And this quarter, I think we are close to 40K, and we peaked maybe close to $42,000 at some point last year. And so my question from here is, how much time do you think it takes you to get back to this kind of 36K, which would mean, Berlin and Texas and like the input cost, all that stuff is normalizing. Is that and that would be like a kind of like a 10% decline in the COGS per car. Is that something we can hope to see this year, or is that too optimistic?
The Austin and Berlin ramp in efficiencies in 4680 will make a substantial amount of progress on that over the course of the year, and that's within Tesla's control. We're doing a lot of work on cost reduction outside of that. And we talked about supply chain costs, expedites logistics, attacking everything. On the raw materials and inflation side, where lithium is the large driver there, and this was a meaningful source of cost increase for us, we'll have to see where lithium prices go. And, we're not fully exposed to lithium prices, but I think in general, is what we've seen from our forecast here, cost per car of lithium in 2023 will be higher than 2022. So, that's a headwind that would have to be overcome to return back to those levels. So I don't think we'll get there this year, but I think we'll make progress. And we'll continue to find ways to offset these raw material costs that we don't have control over. And is there anything on that?
Yeah, like on the non-sales raw material, we begin to capture, benefits of indexes tapering off. But due to the length of various supply chains, it does take time before this is reflected in our financials. And while aluminum is down like 20% year over year, steel is about 30% down year over year. The global non-sales raw materials market continues to be influenced by geopolitical situations in Europe, high production costs due to labor cost increases and energy spikes, and disruptions due to natural disasters like typhoon in Korea 4 months ago, pandemic lockdowns. So we believe that meaningful price corrections will ultimately come, but it remains uncertain exactly when. In the meantime, we continue to redesign supply chain to make it more efficient and work with our supplier partners to find more efficiencies, streamline logistics and transportation to reduce costs.
Excellent, thank you. And I have a quick...
Sorry, you wanted to say something?
I was just going to say, we're also, our fleet is starting to mature, the 3Y fleet, and we're gathering a lot of data out of that fleet to understand how we can sort of bring some margin that we didn't know we had out of the product. So over the course of 2023 on the powertrain side, we're actually going to go after sort of some materials where we're paying for more performance than we need, or we have more content than we need without impacting reliability at all. And that will actually add up to a pretty significant cost reduction on the powertrain side over the course of 2023. So we're not just sort of relying on supply. We're also doing design actions to bring cost out.
Yeah, and my guess is if there is if the recession is a serious one, and I think it probably will be, but I hope it isn't. That would lead to meaningful decreases in almost all of our input costs. So I would expect to see deflation in our input costs most likely, which would then lead to better margins. I'm just guessing here, so this is, but that would be my guess.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So as a quick follow-up, Elon, I was thinking about like FSD, and when you look at like the situation today compared to a year ago, it's like the progress has been like amazing in the quality of the product, but also its rollout. And so I was wondering, how much is this like impacting the take rate of FSD today? So do you already see that people are getting more excited by FSD because they see it around them on 400,000 cars and they see the value of the service already? Or is that too early to really see like to expect like an uptick in the take rate?
The trend is very strong towards use of FSD. And as you allude to, with each incremental improvement, the enthusiasm obviously increases. I think something that still a lot of people out there don't quite appreciate is that Tesla, I've always said like Tesla is as much a software company as a hardware company, but Tesla is really one of the world's leading AI companies. This is kind of a big deal, both AI on the software side and on the hardware side.
Ja, dat blijft natuurlijk een hele belangrijke. En er zijn nog steeds zoveel mensen die dat niet snappen. Dat Tesla niet alleen maar auto's maakt. En dat ze eigenlijk gewoon juist sterk zijn in software. Dat ze veel potentie hebben met FSD. En natuurlijk ook met de energie en de robots. Ga zo maar door. Maar ze zijn met zoveel dingen bezig. En nu trouwens, dit kwartaal zagen we al zoveel groei wat betreft dit bijvoorbeeld, energie in het algemeen. En zo blijft Tesla natuurlijk met van alles en nog wat bezig. En tuurlijk, het grootste gedeelte van hun omzet komt uit auto's. Maar ze hebben juist ook heel veel potentie met andere dingen.
The hardware 3 inference computer, still the most efficient inference computer in the world, despite being at this point 5 years old from the design point. And with hardware 4 coming, and then hardware 5 beyond that, where there are significant leaps. The Dojo computer, we expect to be using that operationally at Tesla later this year. We're seeing just a lot of world-class AI talent join the company. There's also the long-term potential of Optimus, where we're able to use our expertise in electric motors and power electronics, batteries, and advanced manufacturing to be able to make a humanoid robot that is actually useful and can be made at high volume with exceptional capabilities because of the autopilot AI that where we take because the car is like a robot on 4 wheels and the Optimus is a robot on legs. But as we get closer and closer to solving real world AI, and we don't see anyone even close to us in achieving this, the value. Pierre, I think you appreciate this, and a few others do, but most don't know what I'm talking about. So, but this is the thing that has order of magnitude potential market cap improvement for Tesla.
Thank you. And the next question comes from Alex Potter from Piper Sandler.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. So quick one on FSD. This, I guess, for Zach. Obviously, you unlocked some deferred revenue in the quarter that'll translate presumably into higher margins on every incremental sale going forward, so long as people opt in for FSD. But was wondering if you're able to disclose the percentage of the $15,000 price that you're not going to be able to recognize as revenue up front rather than deferred.
Yeah, I mean, the way that we've structured this is a full self-driving package is 2 components. There's enhanced autopilot, the price of which is listed on the website. We fully recognize that. Then there's an incremental, which is for the additional features that Full Self-Driving offers, and we've released a portion of that. And then there's a minority of the total package that's remaining that will be released over time as software updates are there. And in our shareholder letter, in addition to disclosing the dollar amount of the deferred revenue release, we also included in there the dollar value of the balance of unreleased deferred revenue that will be released over time with future software updates.
Okay, great. And then maybe one additional question here on the incremental capacity in Nevada, the 4680s that you're planning. It's a lot of batteries, obviously, and presumably you won't be putting all of those in Tesla Semi. So I guess two questions about that incremental capacity. First, is it correct to assume that all of those 4680s are going to be more or less fungible and usable in your entire range of products? And if the answer is yes, then if you had to guess, how do you think that 100 gigawatt hours would be allocated between your various end markets?
I don't know. This is a bit too much guessing at this point.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you're right. Not all of the 100 gigawatt hours are going to go into the semi trucks. That is correct. I mean, we can.
Let's say, like I alluded to, a number of future products. Those future products would use the 4680.
Thank you. And the next question comes from George from Canaccord Research.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking my question. So you recently adjusted prices, and that may have put many of your competitors on the back foot. In addition to that, capital markets have recently gotten a lot tougher. So with those factors in mind, I'm curious how you see the current competitive landscape changing over the next few years, and who you see as your chief competitors 5 years from now.
Well, 5 years. 5 years is a long time.
Interessante vraag.
I was with the Tesla Autopilot AI team until late last night, and we're just asking. I was just like, so who do we think is close to Tesla for a general solution for self-driving, and we still don't even know really who would even be the distant second. So yeah, it really seems like we're. Right now, I don't think you could see second place with a telescope. So, or at least we can't. That won't last forever. So, in 5 years, I don't know. Probably somebody's figured it out. I don't think it's any of the car companies that we're aware of. But I'm just guessing that someone might figure it out eventually. So, yeah.
I mean, beyond that.
Ja, ik denk dat zelf ook als FSD, of in ieder geval echt full self-driving, ooit wordt opgelost. Zeg even opgelost, is dat je echt in een auto kan zitten en dan level 4 of 5 autonomy, dat je gewoon ergens naartoe kan rijden. Als dat wordt opgelost, dan denk ik zelf dat dat gewoon door Tesla wordt opgelost. En zo niet, dan wordt het niet een Volkswagen of een Ford of een BMW of een Toyota of een GM of wat dan ook. En dan wordt het eerder een techbedrijf, een Google of een, weet ik veel, een Apple als ze inderdaad met elektrische auto's komen of iemand anders. Maar niet een van de traditionele jongens, nee.
Elon, like in the vehicle space, even though the market's shrinking, we're growing, and EVs have doubled almost year over year. So like whoever keeps up with the trend of EVs is going to be your competitor. And the Chinese are scary. We always say that. But like, a lot of people always look at the EV market share, but we always look at it as how much of the total vehicle space do we have, and we're just going to keep growing in that space. There's 95% for us to go get.
Yeah, and I do want to say, like, I think we have a lot of respect for the car companies in China. They are the most competitive in the world. That is our experience, and the Chinese market is the most competitive. They work the hardest and they work the smartest. that's so a lot of respect for the China car companies that we're competing against. So if I were to guess, it would probably be some company out of China is the most likely, to be second, to Tesla. But we are the Tesla China team is winning in China. And I think we actually are able to attract the best talent in China. So hopefully that continues. So yeah, super fired up about the future, and yeah, well, it's going to be great.
Just as a follow-up,
een BYD of een Xpeng of een NIO of andere Chinese jongens of startups of wat dan ook, dat zijn denk ik inderdaad degenen die het goed gaan doen. En ik denk dat het straks gewoon Tesla en China gaat worden die het echt heel goed gaan doen, die massa gaan doen. En ik denk zelf, maar ik weet dat de meningen zijn daar heel erg over verdeeld, maar ik denk dat een Volkswagen, een Ford, een GM, Toyota, BMW, Mercedes, een Honda, ga zo maar door, dat al die jongens het echt wel heel erg zwaar zullen krijgen. Want die transitie naar elektrische auto's die gaat alleen maar versnellen. Dat is echt een S-curve inderdaad, waar Tesla volop inspeelt. En ja, die andere jongens zijn gewoon nog steeds niet hard genoeg aan het innoveren. En ze blijven achter de feiten aanlopen, terwijl China echt vol innoveert. China komt nu al echt met massaproductie. Nou, Tesla innoveert natuurlijk ook. En als de rest dat niet doet, wat ze nu natuurlijk niet zo heel goed doen, ja, dan hebben ze straks echt wel gewoon een heel erg groot probleem.
the Inflation Reduction Act has created huge tax incentives for commercial vehicles. You mentioned an incredibly interesting product pipeline. Are there maybe some plans to accelerate commercial vehicle form factors outside of the Tesla Semi to help accelerate EV adoption?
Well, I was basically saying that, yes, but I'm not going to give you details because this is nice try. Yeah, of course. So, we have to always look at like what is the limiting factor for new vehicles, because if for the longest time we've been constrained on total cell, lithium-ion production output, and so people say like, why not bring this other car to market or that other car to market? Well, it doesn't really help if all you're doing is shuffling around the batteries from one car to another. In fact, it hurts because you add complexity, but you don't add incremental volume. So it's sort of pointless. In fact, counterproductive to add model complexity without solving the availability of lithium-ion batteries. So as we get we want a new product introduction to match where the cells are available for that new product to use those cells without cannibalizing the cells of the other cars. That's the actual limiting factor for new models, not anything else really.
Thank you. Let's go to the next question. The next question comes from William Stein from Truist.
Great. Thanks for taking my question. Elon, you started to answer this earlier, but I like to ask this question about the AI elements of your business and ask if you could comment on progress around Dojo and Optimus and your anticipation for the likelihood, for example, for the company to disconnect the GPU cluster in favor of Dojo and to have some market achievement in Optimus?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, since we're still at the early stages, there are big error bars in any predictions. So it's like easy to predict the long term, but hard to predict the time in between now and then. But we think Dojo will be competitive with the NVIDIA H1 at the end of this year, and then hopefully surpass it next year. The key there is like I think what's the energy usage required for a given amount of if you're training a frame of video, how what's the energy cost required to do that training? We think probably we said this already actually at AI Day 2, so it's not new information, but we do see potential for an order of magnitude improvement relative to GPU, what GPUs can do for Dojo, which is obviously very specialized for AI training. It's hyper specialized for AI training. So wouldn't be great for other things, but it should be extremely good for AI training. So just like if you do an ASIC for something, it's going to be better than a CPU. This is sort of in some ways like a giant ASIC, and we're able to. Since we're operating one of the biggest GPU clusters in the world already, we've got a good sense of how efficient the GPU clusters operate and what Dojo needs to do in order to be competitive. But we think that it does have a fundamental architectural advantage because it's designed not to be the GPU is trying to do many things for many people. They're trying to do graphics, video games. It's doing crypto mining. It's doing a lot of things. Dojo is doing one thing, and that is training. And we're also optimizing the low-level software so that it at a very sort of bare metal level. So it's just insanely good at efficient training. And the intercommunication between the Dojo modules is extremely high. You're not going across an Ethernet cable. So anyway, we see a path to an order of magnitude improvement in the energy efficiency per given unit of training. But we also have to achieve that, and so when will it be achieved? It's hard to say, but we do see a path to get there. And then also in inference, like once you've got something trained, well, if you want to have a product, that's a consequence of that training, and that product may not be anything to do with cars, then the efficiency of inference is extremely important. And we also have by far the most efficient inference computer with the FSD computer in the car. This has potential for products that aren't even really in automotive.
Thank you. William, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, it sounds.
Dit zijn altijd van die stukjes, dan gaat Elon Musk even praten en dan gaat hij er heel diep op in en dan wordt het af en toe een beetje lastiger om het te blijven volgen en je aandacht erbij te houden. Ik weet niet of jullie dat ook hebben, maar dat hoort er wel een beetje bij.
It's like the 1.8 million units you expect this year is supply, not demand limited. Supply, it sounds like by the lithium batteries. If you were to become demand limited, can you talk to us about your propensity to use price and your relatively high industry margins to grow units and share?
Yeah. To be clear, the 1.8 million is not self-supply limited. We did address that number earlier in the call. I don't know if you want to answer.
Yeah, it's roughly. A self-supply is roughly matched with that, and this is 1.8 million cars. If we get lucky, it could be more, and then the rest would go into stationary storage, the Powerwall and Megapack. True.
Okay, let's have the final question from Adam Jonas.
Hi, Elon. First question is it time for Tesla to significantly expand the captive FinCo? I mean, you only have like $4.5 billion of these receivables. It's basically nothing compared to other big auto companies. Then I have a follow-up.
Zach, maybe let's press to answer that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way that we've been using captive financing so far is to plug what we believe to be gaps in the market of existing third-party products. And so we have a couple of offerings in Europe. We do loans for our energy business, retail energy business here in the US. We do leasing, and we do a small amount of US loans that are very targeted. And so we're using captives to support market gaps, as I mentioned. So basically as a vehicle to support vehicle sales, make sure customers have access. I do think there's opportunity here to continue to grow this. We are growing it slowly here. It is a consumer of cash, so we're being cautious on how we do that. But you know, the plumbing is in place to do a lot more here. And I think we'll have to see how things unfold over the course of the year and make decisions real time as to how much we ramp it up versus ramp it back.
I think if we see if we see a severe recession this year, which, like I said, hopefully we don't, in severe recessions, cash is king big time because it's in such short supply. So we want to be cautious about using cash for loans and that sort of thing for cars. You know, I feel we're in a very strong position to get through a recession because we really don't have any debt, and we've got over $20 billion of cash, which is great. Actually, the cash is earning a ridiculous return, not a good return. So it's like non-trivial.
Ja, en ook natuurlijk een mooie. Hè? Elon Musk geeft hier aan van, ze hebben natuurlijk heel veel cash. Meer dan $20 miljard aan cash, weinig schulden. En ja, de rest heeft dat niet. De andere autofabrikanten, die hebben gewoon heel veel schulden. Dus ze zijn gewoon heel goed gepositioneerd. En dit is een mooie, want dit is ook weer zoiets dat je niet terugziet in de cijfers. Maar dit hoor je pas met zo'n earnings call. Ja, dat ze hun cash gewoon gebruiken. En dat ze een mooie rente krijgen op hun cash. En ja, met die huidige hoge rentes, geen idee, 3-4%. Elon Musk zegt van non-trivial. Ja, alleen maar mooi om te horen.
Yeah, the interest rate is actually means the 20 billion is earning like quite a good amount. And I've made this point on Twitter a few times, and I'm sure a lot of people on this call understand the basic value of a security is a function of the risk-free rate, or we'll see how risk-free it really is, but of the T-bill rate. So if you've got, I think if I recall correctly, the S&P 500 has a long-term rate of return of roughly 6%. And so I think the Fed needs to be very cautious about having a Fed rate that potentially exceeds 6%. If we see deflation, and I think we are seeing deflation, then you would add the deflation number to the in quotes risk-free rate from the Fed, and as that starts to exceed 6%, now you're starting to exceed the long-term return of the S&P 500, and it starts to become questionable as to why not just put your money in T-bills or a savings account essentially instead of in the S&P 500 if the S&P 500 is variable and the bank interest rate is not. This is so basically the Fed is at risk of crushing the value of all equities. This is quite a serious danger.
Ja, als je Elon Musk een beetje volgt, dan, dit heeft hij natuurlijk vaker gezegd, hè, dat de Fed rentes te erg heeft verhoogd. Te veel risico's daardoor, grote kans op een recessie, daar krijgen heel veel bedrijven last van. Tesla is gelukkig goed gepositioneerd, omdat ze dus inderdaad zoveel cash hebben, meer dan 22 miljard op het moment, weinig schulden. Maar heel benieuwd hoe dit gaat, hoe dit uiteindelijk zal uitpakken. Of de Fed inderdaad sneller zal pivoten, dat ze inderdaad rentes sneller gaan verlagen. Krijgen we inderdaad een recessie? Hebben ze inderdaad rentes te erg verhoogd? Ja, we zullen zien.
Thanks, Elon. And just a follow-up, I don't want to steal thunder from March 1st down in Austin, but how close are we to that step change improvement in BOM cost where you could sell an EV for under 25 or 30,000 bucks and actually generate a profit, that kind of real moving assembly line moment in manufacturing? Again, don't want to steal the thunder, but just if you wanted to kind of wrap up with thoughts there, that'd be helpful.
Oh, man.
Thanks, Elon.
I mean, I'd love to answer, if I were you, I'd probably be asking the same question, but we would be jumping the gun on future announcements.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, everyone, for all your good questions, and we will see you again in 3 months' time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Alright, dat was hem. Dat ging eigenlijk best wel snel, vond ik. Ik weet niet wat jullie vonden, maar soms is zo'n earnings call, zeker met Elon Musk, toch een beetje langdradig. Maar ja, ik weet niet, ik vond hem eigenlijk wel hartstikke interessant. En ja, toch wel weer een hoop dingen gehoord. Even kijken wat Tesla weer doet. En niet zo heel gek veel aan het veranderen. Nou ja, 9,73, bijna 10% in de plus vandaag. Natuurlijk hele mooie cijfers. Mooie vooruitzichten. Ja, even een aantal dingen die mij in ieder geval opvallen. Ten eerste, we kunnen hier ook in die transcript naar boven gaan. Die 1,8 miljoen. Even kijken, waar staat die 1,8 miljoen? Oh, dat moet nog helemaal naar boven. Even kijken. Bij een van de eerste vragen. Misschien kan ik even Ctrl-F 1.8. Nou, hier. Die 1,8 miljoen. En hij zei meteen van, ja, oké, dit en dat. Hij begon een beetje te stotteren en doen. En ja, our internal production potential is actually closer to 2 million vehicles. But we're saying 1.8 because, ja, je weet het niet. Aardbevingen, tsunamis, ga zo maar door. En we gaan waarschijnlijk, de kans is er om naar de 2 miljoen te gaan. En ze hebben nu precies gedaan wat heel veel big tech bedrijven doen. Underpromissen, uiteindelijk hopelijk overdeliveren. Want zelfs als ze nou 1,85 doen of 1,81, dat doen ze uiteindelijk dus meer dan verwacht. En dat is natuurlijk heel erg positief. Dan is er weer positiviteit, dan gaat het aandeel waarschijnlijk omhoog in plaats van negativiteit, zoals we nu natuurlijk heel veel hebben de afgelopen paar maanden. Niet de afgelopen paar weken, maar zeg het afgelopen half jaar ongeveer. Verder heeft Elon Musk weer aangegeven dat hij denkt dat Tesla het grootste bedrijf ter wereld gaat worden. Dat heeft hij nu al vaak gezegd en ja, nou, we zullen zien. Ik denk als het ze lukt om echt die FSD te krijgen, dus echt zelfrijdende auto's. En als heel veel mensen FSD aanschaffen, ja, dan kan het heel erg hard gaan met echt belachelijke marges. Gewoon $15.000, $15.000, $15.000, gewoon puur winst per auto erbij. Energietak gaat goed. Even kijken. Geen probleem wat betreft de vraag naar auto's. Sterker nog, hebben ze ook gezegd, niet zo heel veel later, even kijken, heeft Elon Musk aangegeven dat ze, nou in ieder geval dat ze prijzen aan het verhogen zijn zelfs. Weet ik veel, increase zoeken of zo. Even kijken. Nou ja, maakt niet uit. In ieder geval dat ze prijzen van bepaalde, volgens mij Model Y's aan het verhogen zijn. Dus ze hebben natuurlijk prijzen flink verlaagd. De vraag is gewoon gigantisch gestegen. Nu zijn ze zelfs bepaalde prijzen aan het verhogen. Tesla Insurance was een interessante. Dat die Tesla Insurance dus zo voordelig wordt. Dat andere verzekeraars ook prijzen zullen verlagen. Dat die total cost of ownership omlaag gaat. En dat het daardoor gewoon interessanter wordt om een Tesla aan te schaffen. Ja, en over het algemeen gewoon dat ze heel erg positief zijn. En dit is denk ik het belangrijkste aan zo'n earnings call. Want bij zo'n earnings call krijg je gewoon net wat meer informatie dan tijdens gewoon alleen de kwartaalcijfers die je gewoon leest natuurlijk. De harde cijfers op papier. Nu krijg je wat meer gevoel bij. Emoties, wat ze denken, hoe positief ze zijn. En ja, ik denk dat Tesla nog steeds gewoon heel erg mooi gepositioneerd is voor de lange termijn. Nog steeds eigenlijk heel veel vertrouwen in. Even kijken. Ja, die marges inderdaad, Pieter, 20%. Ook een hele belangrijke. Dat ze hebben aangegeven dat ze na prijs hebben verlaagd en dat ze nog steeds waarschijnlijk 20% gross margins gaan halen. Natuurlijk heel erg netjes. Erg aantrekkelijk geworden in vergelijking met bijvoorbeeld een Ford Mach-E, Polestar. Zijn de negatieve punten van de cijfers. Het eerste waar ik aan moet denken is dan die FSD met die 400.000. Ja. Want die 400.000 customers in Amerika en in Canada, die hadden we een jaar geleden ook. Dus het is niet dat die FSD take rate flink is gestegen, wat echt wel jammer is. Als we nou 500.000 of 600.000 hadden gehad, dan was dat een mooie stijging geweest. Maar ja, FSD valt mij bijvoorbeeld tegen. En dat is toch natuurlijk heel veel omzet, ongeveer $15.000 per auto gewoon. Een hoop geld, wat gewoon zo goed als 100% marge is. Dat vind ik zelf wel een tegenvaller. Verder, wat zijn nog meer tegenvallers? Even kijken. Ja, weinig eigenlijk. Ik denk dat alles eigenlijk gewoon nog steeds volgens plan gaat. Ik denk dat dat het belangrijkste is. Nog steeds die gemiddelde 50% groei per jaar. Veel cash, weinig schulden, goed gepositioneerd. Ja, ik denk eigenlijk vooral heel veel positieve dingen. Ja, inderdaad, wat Brian ook zegt, dat ze meer doen dan alleen de auto's. Tesla Robot zijn ze mee bezig. Je eerste earnings call ooit, Pieter, top. Ja, dit soort earnings calls zijn gewoon top, want je krijgt net wat meer informatie, wat meer emotie, wat meer gevoel erbij. En als je in zo'n bedrijf wil investeren, is dat denk ik toch wel belangrijk. Elon Musk is stem genoeg wordt voor de komende 3 maanden. Ja, dat denk ik ook. Wat was maar die Tesla vrachtwagen, die semi? Kan ik misschien even hier, nee, even kijken. Ja, in de Gigafactory in Nevada, even kijken. Nou, hier gaan ze dus die semi maken, zoals we hier nou rechts kunnen zien. Al die Tesla semis. En dat wordt eigenlijk in dit stuk hier zo. Mocht je het interessant vinden, want ik ga zo afsluiten, kan je nog op YouTube zoeken naar Tesla, het kanaal Tesla op YouTube. En dan het laatste filmpje, of het ene laatste filmpje, ik denk het laatste filmpje, daar presenteert eigenlijk Elon Musk met ook de governor van Nevada deze Gigafactory, de plannen waar ze dus die Tesla semi gaan opschalen. Samenwerking met Pepsi. Deze dus, Cheetos is van Pepsi, dus deze wordt ook voor Pepsi geleverd. En ja, super interessant, want als je dit even uitrekent met zo'n elektrische semi, zeker over de wat langere termijn, ja, er is gewoon echt heel veel geld mee te besparen. Want deze dingen zijn gewoon zoveel goedkoper, zeker als je echt heel veel gaat rijden. En er zijn gewoon heel veel vrachtwagens die rijden gewoon 100.000, 200.000 kilometer per jaar. En als je dat dan doet met een semi en als het gewoon goedkoper is per kilometer, ja, op de lange termijn kan je daar gewoon heel erg veel geld mee besparen. Dus voor een Pepsi en natuurlijk in de toekomst ook voor andere spelers heel erg interessant. Ja, die trucks inderdaad, ja, dat net even verteld. Wat een factory, ziek groot. Ja, inderdaad, dat is echt gigantisch. Ja, high-tech factory, dat wordt echt wel mooi. Je moet het ook vanuit de ruimte kunnen lezen blijkbaar, dit Tesla. Ja, inderdaad. Dit is echt gigantisch. Maar hoe groot die gigafactories zijn, dat zie je eigenlijk pas in bepaalde filmpjes. Kan je ook op YouTube filmen. En dat is als ze heel dichtbij, dus bijvoorbeeld, dan beginnen ze zeg maar zo ergens. En dan zien ze een mens of een auto of wat dan ook. En dan zoomen ze uit. En als ze dan gaan uitzoomen, dat zie je misschien hier ook al. Dit zijn eigenlijk allemaal mensen, die kleine pixeltjes hier. En als je dan gaat uitzoomen, ja, dan zie je hoe belachelijk groot zo'n gigafactory is. En ja, dit worden gewoon de meest high-tech fabrieken allemaal, waar ze gewoon top dingen gaan maken. De Tesla's natuurlijk, de semi. Hier de 4680 batterijen. Hier zo rechts in het midden. Ja, en natuurlijk de Gigafactory in Shanghai, in Berlijn. Ga zo maar door. Dus ja, ik denk weer een mooie earnings call. Ik denk dat Tesla echt heel mooi gepositioneerd is voor de lange termijn. Het aandeel is natuurlijk ook heel mooi gestegen. Bijna 10% vandaag. Ja, en echt gewoon van de ongeveer 100, 105, nou precies 10% op dit moment. Van de ongeveer 101 volgens mij, 101,81 is een 52-week low. En ja, helaas had ik zelf een order klaarstaan om te kopen op 101,1. Deze order heb ik er nu al een tijdje in staan. Net niet gehit. En ja, toen is Tesla gaan stijgen. Van de 101 naar de 158. Een stijging van zo'n 50% gewoon in een paar weken tijd. Bizar. Maar goed, als we even uitzoomen, Tesla is natuurlijk belachelijk gedaald. Hè, van de, wat is het? Van de ongeveer 400 gedaald naar de ongeveer 100. Dus een daling van meer dan 70%. En nu weer heel netjes aan het stijgen. Ik ben benieuwd wat er gaat gebeuren. Ik zag ook een aantal vragen van mensen of Tesla nog steeds interessant is om te kopen. Hangt van wat je zelf van Tesla vindt. Ik ben zelf in ieder geval van plan om mijn aandelen gewoon vast te houden. Ik ga geen aandelen verkopen. Stel, ze gaan echt flink stijgen. Zeg even richting de $200 voor 190, 195, 200. Dan wil ik misschien een klein plukje verkopen. Omdat ze dan echt flink zijn gestegen. En dan een aantal aandelen die ik zeg even rond de 105 en de $110 heb gekocht. En daar heb ik ook aandelen gekocht. Daar wil ik misschien kleine plukjes van verkopen. Want het wordt nu ook gewoon veruit mijn grootste positie. Als we even naar de waardes gaan kijken. Ja, €15.000 heb ik nu in Tesla. Omdat ook Tesla flink is gestegen. Bijna dubbel zo groot als mijn tweede positie Amazon. Dus mocht die echt nog meer stijgen naar de 200, 190, 195, zoiets, ga ik misschien een plukje verkopen. Maar verder, ik blijf Tesla gewoon voor de lange termijn vasthouden. Ik denk gewoon echt een hele mooie. Dus dat was hem denk ik even. Thanks voor het beluisteren voor degenen die er zijn. Mijn eerste livestream ooit. Laat me ook even in de comments weten of wat je ervan vond. Of je vindt dat ik het vaker moet doen met andere bedrijven misschien. Bijvoorbeeld de kwartaalcijfers van Google straks. Of misschien een Apple, ook al bezit ik zelf geen Apple of iets anders. En dan zou ik weer zeggen, dankjewel voor het kijken. Klik nog even op die like en tot de volgende keer en laters.